I know you and I are both big Buckminster Fuller fans. And one of my favorite quotes from him is, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you have to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." And you and I have known each other a long time. We met in your post-FIT days in New York City. And I don't think you would have described yourself at the time as somebody who was trying to build a new model. In fact, you were an incredibly well-regarded textile engineer, meaning you didn't enter this industry to be altruistic. You made big companies lots of money while making lots of fiber. So what changed? Talk to me about how that mindset changed for you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started my career in New York City working for a small luxury home furnishings company in Tribeca. So I started that while I was at FIT. And then when I graduated, I moved to DuPont. From there, I moved to Minnesota. I started Target's raw materials division. And then Eddie Bauer actually moved me to the West Coast to manage their denim businesses. So I've slowly made my progression out to the West Coast. And in 2010, I began working for a company that was making clothing out of recycled plastic waste. And this was a startup, and they sent me to China to find sources of manufacturing. And this was the first time I had been into the subcontracted areas of China. We were there for a month, and the best way to describe it is I had an awakening around how our industry is treating the environment and how people are living as a result of that treatment. So I'll just give you a quick little story. My colleague and I got to this one area where we got out of the car. We were standing right next to each other, but we couldn't see each other. The air quality was so thick with pollution. We took an elevator up to our meeting room, and midway through the room to the ceiling was this cloud hovering over the heads of their corporate team. We sat under this cloud and we talked about how we could do business. And for the first time, I was just shocked by what we were seeing. And for a month, we traveled around the country and the conditions did not improve. It was really obvious to me we had a serious air and water problem as a result of the way we make textiles. And I came back from that trip not exactly knowing how to handle it, but I ended up moving into graduate school and started studying the problem.
That must have been such an incredibly overwhelming feeling to be in a place where you knew you were a part of what had happened there. I think sustainability has become something that's on the lips of everyone, and we all feel pretty responsible in the fashion industry for what's happened and for changing it. And I think one of the hardest things about having one of those ecstatic epiphany moments is it can be kind of hard to take it back down the mountain. Like, was your initial thought, I'm going to go create a new fiber to fix this? Or how did you take that kernel of an idea of, oh my God, this is not okay, I'm part of this? How did you take that back and take that idea of, if I could create this reality, I can create another reality back with you?
Yeah, that's a great question, because remember, this was 2010. So we really hadn't, that people were talking about sustainability, but not like they are today. So this was I came back with the feeling like, okay, I have three choices. I could either pretend I add value in other ways and, continue on same old, and just continue to operate as is. I could switch industries, but quickly that became, a no deal, because when you cut me open, I bleed textiles. So it's really hard to separate me from the work. So the only thing I felt I could do and live with myself is to attempt to fix the problem. And, the crazy thing about responsibility is, when you talk about meta level responsibility to, air, water, soil, and trees, there is no, here's my part of the air, you handle your part of the air. You really are in a situation where it's all or nothing. So, that was a really big task. So I decided to go back to grad school and start studying the problem. I did not intend on creating a business. In fact, I intended on, innovating within a large organization, going and getting my degree and then working for another big brand retailer, supply chain partner. And it was really interesting. I think FIT taught me two things. They teach you how to speak a language and how to leverage connections. And when I went to graduate school, I was looking for the same thing. How do we speak the language of sustainability in a way that the fashion industry can really understand? So that's what I was going to learn. What I discovered, though, was quite different, and it led me down the path of following an entrepreneurship program in graduate school. And I'll never forget when, the entrepreneurial professor said, well, can you make a sample of what you're talking about? And I was like, what do you mean a sample? He's like, just a bench sample, like, just give me a go get me a prototype. So, I talked to Cristo and we took a t-shirt from a solid to a liquid and back to a solid with a syringe. And I put my 3 samples in front of him: solid, old t-shirt, liquefied, solid new fiber. Here's my prototype. And his jaw just dropped and he's like, well, what else can you do? And I'm like, I don't know. You tell me what I need to do and I guess I'll go do it. But yeah, it was very accidental. In fact, I think starting this business was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make.
And it hasn't all been easy. I mean, let's be clear. I know, knowing you for this long, that it all looks easy on the outside, but you have a great story about your mentor and a breakfast burrito that I'd love for you to tell, because I think in this audience, we have a lot of people who are trying to do something new, who want to innovate. And sometimes we're in our own limitations. So will you please tell the breakfast burrito story?
Yes, absolutely. So, we were, Cristo and I started the company. We liquidated our retirement funds, maxed out our credit cards, did all of the traditional things you do when you start something, all to prototype. And we needed more money to get this one piece of equipment. And I remember meeting with one of my mentors in Seattle, and I'm sitting there just crying, like, how are we going to get this done? The dream is over. And he's, eating his breakfast burrito, and he's just looking at me like, kind of shaking his head a little bit. And I'm crying. And, he's like, okay, Stace, so you mean to tell me that a piece of metal is going to get between you and your dream? He's like, come on, what's metal and has holes in it? You can figure this out. I gotta go. And he left. And, as I was getting up to leave, I knocked over a salt shaker, and I saw, the top of the salt shaker, it has metal, has holes. And I fashioned a spinneret, which was the piece of equipment that I needed, at Home Depot for probably $7. Now, would that spinneret ever work? Absolutely not. That wasn't the point. It was using a design thinking tool to get you out of your own way so you could think through, how am I going to do this in another way? And what it caused me to do was go back to my network. And I had done some guest lecturing from a professor who had a PhD in fiber morphology. I contacted her, asked her if I could borrow a spinneret, and she had one shipped to me. I had one for free by the end of that week. It was just incredible. Lots of stories like that where you think it's over, only to wake up the next day to find out it's not over.
I think that's kind of the story of being an innovator. I think it's the story of when we're trying to solve problems this big that don't have answers yet, or maybe the answers are just ideas and they're not fully formed. You've a lot
or linear.
Yeah. And I think you've got a lot of great ideas about, and a lot of great insight into what innovators need from this industry and from the investment community to be successful. And that story tells you something, which is call on your own resources like you learned at FIT, leverage your network, but also there's a nurturing and a mentorship level from Mr. Breakfast Burrito, what else do innovators need right now? What does the industry need to show up and help them with?
Yeah, there's so much, there's so much nurturing required for innovators. Sometimes it's not even, sometimes money is the last thing. Sometimes money is, you may think that you need to just pay for it, but really we've got to get much more creative about how we solve problems here. Innovators really do and operate in the realm of possibility. And when you are up against the world as it currently is, you are naturally confronted with all of that rejection. Nobody teaches you how to work through rejection. From an investment perspective, we've been turned down by hundreds of investors. We also have over 100 investors in the company. So we've gotten a lot of yeses as well, but you do have to go through and find the right fit for your company and make sure that you're bringing in, the capital from the right people who are aligned to the vision of what you're trying to do. There's an old adage that says you can't fire money, and it's true. So when you bring on investors, it's really important that you understand what's motivating them, what's driving them, and make sure that you're aligned on that. In terms of what innovators need, there is no culture of innovation in the apparel industry. It's really interesting. The farther down you go into the supply chain, the more conservative the constituents get because they're high volume, low margin businesses, which do not have a culture of innovation. They do not like to change. It takes a lot of time and energy to work to inspire change. And that's really where, we've chosen to operate as an innovations company to really help these larger players modernize, which is not necessarily the easiest path. The other alternative could have been, we could have just built all new facilities and created competitive forces with people, but we opted not to do that because there's so much equipment that exists out there, so much intelligence that exists out there. If we can get the supply chain partners to essentially join forces, we can do so much more together than any one company could ever do alone.
It's super inspiring. And, one thing you say to me all the time is that innovation requires the space to be creative. It requires space and breathing room in order
freedom
in order to iterate. And this is an FIT event. And I am certain that the next generation of innovators who are going to transform the industry are out there and hopefully are going to listen to this. So speak directly to them. What do they need to know? What is your advice as an innovator, and how do you build into that system to ensure you have that space for creativity, no matter how you're innovating?
Absolutely. I would say I think everybody has to come up with their own principles, but I would say the Flynn principles for innovation really are, stay true to the vision. We have a vision to make garment to garment recyclability a reality in our industry. By the end of this decade, garment to garment recyclability will be the new norm. So staying really focused on the vision, it allows you to make all of your decisions if you've got a true north. It also allows your team to make decisions because as well laid a plan as you can have, it is nothing compared to what you're going to be faced with when you're dealing with real-time conversations. And, everyone has to know where true north is because that will ultimately decide how we move. Source of inspiration. Nature's always been a major source of inspiration for me. I think, one of the interesting things that I experienced when I stepped out of the corporate environment was I almost felt like nature was outside of me. And I began discovering when I started this business that we're attached in ways that I didn't fully grasp. And, connecting with the elements is so inspiring for the soul. So that's been a really incredible anchor for me. The third is mentors, advisors, team members, business partners. A lot of times I am the face of Evrnu, but honestly, I wouldn't be here without the power and strength of my business partner, Christo, and our entire team. It's really, it really is a team effort to try to change an industry for the better. The two more. The fourth principle is we set Evrnu up as a social purpose corporation in the state of Washington. And this was really important to me because our bylaws basically say that we do not have to legally maximize shareholder profit if we're doing damage to the environment or people. And this is really where a lot of businesses get into trouble, because if you are a for-profit corporation, you have shareholders and you're not a social purpose corp, you do have to maximize shareholder profit, which means you're going to do the bare minimum for the environment, the bare minimum for employees, because it's a requirement. So setting the company up as an SPC from the beginning was really important, because again, we wanted to be free to make sure that we were working within the boundaries of planetary systems and frankly, human systems, which, I actually feel more strongly about the human systems than anything, because, humans create, either damage or the opposite. So making sure that we were a social purpose corp. And then we became a B Corp, which is also really incredible. It's B Corp month right now. There's an incredible B Corp community. And, this is really a commitment to, quantify and collectively draw down impact, which is awesome. So I found being a B Corp as being a really interesting thing. And there's a bee right here too. And I was like, ah. So it flew away. It heard me talking about it. And then the fifth principle I have is we have a just-in-time financing model. There are two kinds of entrepreneurs out there: entrepreneurs that take a boatload of money and spend it like they've got it, and then there are entrepreneurs that take only what they need and they innovate around that need, and they use scarcity as a design tool. We are one of those companies where we have a just-in-time financing model, and we want to make sure that we are staying focused on the goals and not over capitalizing to find the solutions, but just really make sure that we're staying focused on the goal.
So those are with the least amount of resources.
Yeah. And I think, it does get tiring. I mean, we're at the point now where we're like, okay, we've proven that we have all of the technologies to break down every fiber content, every blend in our lab. And we are, starting to roll out our first tech, but, we are constricted by cash from going faster. So, it's a double-edged sword, but I think that, we've chosen this path to demonstrate that you can create really solid businesses that the consumers do ultimately value without taking $100 million to do it.
That's interesting. So most people know Evrnu for your NuCycl technology that takes cotton garment waste and turns it into new fiber. But you're actually an R&D company with lots of technologies in the pipeline. Can you give us a hint to what you're working on or what might be next after NuCycl's in the market?
Totally. Yeah. NuCycl is, it's like recycling, but better, because we take, this is a NuCycl garment. We can basically take this garment back. It's fully recyclable. We can depolymerize it and turn it back into this garment. So it's on par or better quality is what NuCycl stands for. And it's an umbrella brand. So to a consumer, it shouldn't matter whether it's cotton or polyester or stretch. If it has NuCycl on it, it means that it is recyclable. It's made from waste and it's recyclable. We really are an R&D company at heart. We have several labs around the country. We have a pilot line and a prototype line down in the Carolinas. And brands and retailers ask us to build new concept garments for them that, outperform what virgin fiber alternatives could do on their own. So is really exciting. We take that on as a challenge. We work closely with our partners to develop new products. And then essentially, once those prototypes are developed, we transfer that intelligence to their global supply chain partners for mass production. It's a really efficient way to help modernize the industry and get people into products that reduce impact, but don't compromise on quality or performance.
So we can't get out of this without talking about 2020 a little, because by all accounts, for everyone, this was a bit of a shit year. But I've seen you, and I know that you're someone who kind of thrives when everything seems impossible. Did 2020 deliver you any gifts?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I mean, 2021 will go on record as being the best, worst year ever. It was like, I think, both Christo and I were on the road 200 days a year pre-COVID. That's a recipe for disaster. That's like asking to end up in a hospital. And at some point we would have been stopped in our tracks. I really am grateful we got stopped when we did, because the way we were moving around the world was just not healthy. If someone in Germany needed to see us, we would get on a plane and then we'd go to India after, and then we'd get on a plane and go to San Francisco. And, we were just kind of bouncing around the world in a way that was not sustainable as a way to get the company to the next level. March came around, my engines were firing. I had nowhere to go. And I was like, okay, I can't get on a plane. What do I do with myself? So I came out to the cabin, and I've been here ever since, just really kind of cooling my jets, like thinking through, how do we get this company to the next level in the face of our industry going through some real challenges. Now, ironically, as challenging as it's been in our industry, we all know that, business is down by roughly 30%, but our emails started blowing up. People from all over the world started contacting us saying, like, who are you? What do you do? What can you do for us? And we just listened to what they were trying to do. It just felt like the industry, everyone had the opportunity to take a pause and think about what was really important, and started moving in that direction, which, is, to me, a massive sign that we're on the right track, because 2020 forced us to stop the insanity chasing something that wasn't right, and reevaluate and think through, like, how are we going to get this industry set up for the 21st century? And, it's been incredible to be able to move through 2020 and get to the other side. And now we're in 2021, and we're starting to plan our brand retail launches to consumers. We're putting our scaling strategies together, and everything is delayed, but it's still happening. So that's really exciting.
That is very exciting.
Yeah.
From 3 beakers of solid, liquid, and solid to full scale change. It's amazing. So I have one last question for you, which is, what is your vision for this industry? When you are retired at that cabin that we're all probably a little bit jealous watching you there, what does the industry look like? How will you feel good putting your feet up on the porch and saying, yep, we're on the right track?
Well, you got to feel good every day to put your feet up on the porch. I think that's like lesson number 1. Start feeling good today, start making a positive difference today. And, for me, I visioned this out to the year 2050. I am, for all intents and purposes, much more comfortable living in the future than I am in the present. So that's my big learning curve, is like, how do we stay grounded in today to create what needs to be a reality in 2050. But in 2050, we have, completely done away with this wasteful business model. I mean, think about it. Like, the model is, based on style obsolescence, consumption's the key driver, and we throw everything away. It's insanity. It doesn't make any sense. It's the antithesis of how natural systems operate. And the way we treat people as well is a byproduct of how are we getting to the best or cheapest possible price so we can throw things away. It doesn't make any sense. So I feel as we head into like the middle of the 21st century, garment to garment recycling will be the norm. Innovation will be the norm within this industry. We will be funding it, and business and innovation and consumers are all working in concert to really stay focused on how we shape-shift things from one form into another form with no loss in value. I see it creating lots of jobs. I see it creating lots of opportunities around the world and bringing people together to, basically celebrate what's important, which is connection with each other, not connection with more stuff.
That is a great vision. I hope we can all get on board with that. Do you have any last inspirational words for the leaders out there?
Well, you had asked what we had in the hopper, and I was thinking through this. We have so much in the hopper. I apologize for missing that. We are one of the coolest things. We're working on a lot of cool things right now, but one of the coolest things we're working on right now is taking our core fiber technology, which is made from cotton waste. We're basically converting it into carbon fiber. And then that carbon fiber is being used to prototype different types of automotive. So just imagine like a car frame being made entirely out of our old t-shirts. It's just incredible, the opportunity.
How do you even come up with an idea like that? That's insane.
It's Cristo. I mean, it's Cristo. It's, he's really the one working with all of these companies on next gen technologies, but basic building blocks are basic building blocks. They can be used in so many different industries around the world. And, it really just requires people getting creative and asking questions and starting down that prototyping path. It's unbelievable what's possible. Unbelievable.
Okay, so we should be looking for Evrnu carbon fiber in our Teslas.
Maybe. Who knows?
Amazing. Do you have any, can you speak directly to the young innovators coming out of FIT right now?
Absolutely. You know what? I would say if anybody, no one ever really prepares you for what it takes to do something that hasn't been done in the world. I would say if you are faced with adversity, people saying you can't do it, you're probably on the right road. It is just make sure you find people that can support you, and also remember that nobody can see what you can see. That is a really important lesson that I learned kind of later in life. I thought everyone could see and everyone knew what I knew. And I found out that is not true. It became obvious to me after a while, because what we're doing to us is so simple, it's so obvious, but to others, it's not simple or obvious. So just stay focused. If you're doing the right work in the world, everything will line up. You've got to have faith in yourself, faith in possibilities, and stay the course. And I will be behind you, supporting you.
That's wonderful. Stacy, thank you so much for inviting me to do this with you. It has been my great honor and pleasure to watch you in this journey over a couple of decades. Congratulations on being honored tonight at FIT. I can't think of anyone more deserving. And we can't wait to see what you continue to innovate with Evrnu.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I really appreciate it.